Hello everyone. This is Dr. Madhushri Chatterjee and welcome to MC Biology classes. Today's topic is reproductive health and this is chapter 4 of class 12 biology. So without wasting time, let's get started. Reproductive health refers to healthy reproductive organs with normal function. But according to World Health Organization or WHO, reproductive health means a total well-being in physical, emotional, behavioral and social aspects of reproduction. Now some problems are associated with reproductive health and let us have a look. First one is overpopulation. We all are well aware of this fact that the main problem of India is its excess population. The second one is early marriage. In India, children are often married as soon as they attain puberty. Third one is maternal health, that is, health of the mother. Early marriage leads to several diseases in mothers. Next one, which is very important, is maternal mortality rate, or in short MMR, and infant mortality rate, in short IMR. And remember, these are very high in case of early marriages. Next point is deformities. Deformities are also common in children of early marriage. Last point, which is very important, is sexually transmitted diseases, in short STDs. Now, the children who have married early, they do not have proper knowledge of their reproductive organs. Hence, the STDs are very common in case of these persons. But in India, being a pioneer country of the world to initiate plans and programs for attaining reproductive health as a social goal, a number of strategies have been implemented. Like first one is family planning program. A program was initiated in 1951 to combat these problems and this is called family planning program. Since then, it has been periodically assessed and improved. Now the next one is awareness about reproduction. Now in India, there is general awareness about sex education. Then marriageable age. The marriageable age has been fixed. In case of males, it's 21 years and in case of females, it's 18 years. Then reproductive and child health care, that is RCH in short. There should be general awareness about reproductive and child health care also. Then medical facilities, better medical facilities for mother and fetus are available now. Then research in reproductive health area. India has done extensive research in reproductive health area like Saheli, which is a new oral contraceptive, which is a non-steroidal contraceptive for the females, was developed by our scientists at Central Drug Research Institute CDRI in Lucknow, India. And remember, this is very important for NEET exam. Then the last one is amniocentesis. What is that? Let us have a look. Amniocentesis is a process for withdrawing some amniotic fluid surrounding the developing fetus for analyzing fetal cells and dissolved substances. This process was introduced in the year 1967. It is used to test for the presence of certain genetic disorders like Tay Sachs disease, sickle cell disease, muscular dystrophy, etc. Now, how this process is carried out? See, amniotic fluid contains cells from the skin of the fetus and other sources. Now, these cells can be used to determine the sex of the infant, to identify some abnormalities, and to detect certain biochemical and enzymatic abnormalities. But remember, some misuses are also associated with amniocentesis. What is that? It is being used to kill normal female fetus. So now legally it has been banned for the determination of sex to avoid female feticide, that is killing of female fetus. Now next topic is population explosion. So the first question that comes is, what is population? Now population means total number of individuals of a species present in a particular area at a given time. And scientific study of human population is known as demography. Now, demography deals with three phenomena. First one is changes in population size, that is, it might be growth or decline. Number two, the composition of the population. And number three, the distribution of population in space. These 3 points are very important. Now, population increase. How can population increase? See, basically, there are two reasons for the increase in population. First one is natality. Now, natality means the rate of birth. And second one is immigration. Immigration means the number of individuals that have come into a particular habitat. So obviously, natality and immigration will lead in population increase, and population decrease can occur again by two ways. First one is mortality, that is the death rate, and the second one is emigration. Now, emigration means the number of individuals of population who left the habitat. Now, growth is typically of two types. First one is exponential growth, and the second one is logistic growth. Now, let us have a look between these two types of growths. How do they differ from each other? Exponential growth shows J-shaped curve, whereas logistic growth shows S-shaped or sigmoidal growth curve. Now, this type of growth, that is logistic type of population growth, is also known as Verhulst-Perl logistic growth, and it is explained by this equation that have been described here. dn dt is equal to Rn into k minus n by k. Now the question is, what does k and n stand for? See, capital letter N represents population density at particular time t. Small r represents the intrinsic rate of natural increase, and capital K represents the carrying capacity. Here in this slide, graphical representation of exponential growth and logistic growth have been shown. And from this graph, you can easily understand their shapes, because I have already mentioned that exponential growth curve shows J shape and logistic growth shows S shape, that is sigmoidal. So you can easily understand that. Moving on to some key terms. These terms are very important for your exam. First one is census. What is that? Census is the official counting of population and preparing data about age group, birth, death, sex ratio, education, etc. Remember, in India, the first census was carried out in the year 1872. In fact, since 1881, it has been conducted regularly at interval of 10 years. Now, census is conducted as per the provision made under the Census Act of 1948, and these information are very important for NEET exam. Second term is carrying capacity. Carrying capacity, what is that? All environments can carry or sustain only a limited size of population. And remember, this limit is a constant. The carrying capacity is the maximum number of individuals which the environment can support or sustain. The population generally stabilizes around the carrying capacity. The third key term that is mentioned here is biotic potential. What is that? Biotic potential is defined as the physiological capacity of organisms to produce their offspring under natural condition. This is also known as reproductive potential. Now let us discuss about the consequences of overpopulation. We all have some basic idea about the consequences. Let us start discussing with this. First one is poverty. Obviously, overpopulation will lead to poverty. then food supply, then hygienic condition, then unemployment, then housing problems, then pollution, then lack of education. All these things will be associated with overpopulation. Okay. There are few measures that can be taken to control this overpopulation, like education. People, particularly those in the reproductive age group, should be educated about the advantage of a small family. Then marriageable age. Raising the age of marriage is more effective means to control the population, because now the marriageable age of female is 18 years and that of male is 21 years. Then incentive, it's very important. Couples with small families should be given incentives. Then family planning, there are many birth control measures that can check the birth rate. So let us now talk about the different birth control methods. Now, birth control methods, there are temporary and permanent as well. First, let us start with the temporary methods. First one is natural method. These methods avoid meeting sperm and ovum. The first method among these natural methods is periodic abstinence or avoidance of sex. It's also called rhythm method. It is one such method in which couples avoid or abstain from coitus or copulation from day 10 to 17 of the menstrual cycle, because ovulation occurs during this period. So the chances of fertilization is very high during this period. Therefore, it's called fertile period. The second method is withdrawal method or coitus interruptus. In this method, male withdraws his penis from the vagina just before ejaculation to avoid insemination, so that the semen is carried outside the vagina. The third method is lactational amenorrhea method, in short LAM. There is no menstrual cycle and therefore ovulation does not occur during intense lactation following parturition. However, remember, this method is effective only up to maximum period of 6 months after childbirth. Let us talk about the barrier methods. In these methods, ovum and sperm do not meet due to barriers to prevent fertilization. These methods are available for both males and females. First one is condom. Condoms are made of thin rubber or latex sheath which is used to cover the penis in the male or vagina and cervix in the female just before coitus, so that the ejaculated semen is not released in the female reproductive tract. So obviously this prevents fertilization. Nirodh, the Hindi name of condom, is a popular brand of condom for the male. Nirodh also protects the user from sexually transmitted diseases and AIDS. Both male and female condoms are disposable. Female condom is known as femidome or vaginal pouch also. Second barrier method is diaphragm. Diaphragm is a soft rubber dome-shaped structure that fits over the cervix and is used along with a spermicide. Don't forget that. It's not used alone. It is inserted up to 6 hours before intercourse. It provides some protection against STDs as well as cervical cancer. Third barrier method is cervical cap. It is a miniature diaphragm that covers cervix. It prevents a sperm from reaching an egg and holds spermicide. Fourth one is vault cap. It is hemispheric dome-like rubber or plastic cap with a thick rim which is meant for fitting over the vaginal vault over the cervix. The next method of birth control is chemical method or spermicides. Foams, tablets, cream, jellies and pastes are inserted in the vagina before intercourse to prevent sperm from entering the uterus. These contain spermicides, that is agents that kill sperms. Most widely used spermicide is nonoxynol 9, which kills sperms by disrupting their plasma membrane. Now, the next method of birth control is intrauterine devices, in short IUDs. These devices are inserted by doctors or trained nurses in the uterus through vagina. These devices may be non-medicated IUD like lips loop or medicated IUD like copper releasing IUD, copper T, copper 7, multiload 375 and hormone releasing IUD like Progesta Cert or LNG20 is also there. So the IUDs actually increase phagocytosis of sperms within the uterus, and the copper ion released by some suppress the sperm motility and the fertilizing capability of the sperms. The hormone releasing IUDs make the uterus unstable for implantation and the cervix hostile to the sperms. Copper T prevents pregnancy by preventing fertilization, and IUDs are ideal contraceptive method used by the females. And in India, it is one of the most widely accepted method of contraception. This is very important for your NEET exam. The next method of birth control is hormonal method. Now, hormonal methods are basically of three types. First one is oral contraceptive pill or oral pill. Second one is non-oral contraceptive pill. And third one is emergency contraceptives. So let us begin with oral contraceptive pill. They are used in the form of tablets, therefore they are called pills. Pills have to be taken daily for 21 days starting from the first 5 days of menstrual cycle. After a gap of 7 days, it has to be repeated. They inhibit ovulation and implantation. So the mode of action of oral contraceptive pill can be asked in your NEET exam. That is, they inhibit ovulation and implantation. They contain either progestin, that is progesterone hormone alone, or a combination of progestogen and estrogen. Thus, oral contraceptive pills are of three types: combined, sequential, and mini pill. Now, let us start with the combined pills. They are most commonly used oral contraceptive pills. They contain synthetic progesterone and estrogen to check ovulation. Pills Mala D and Mala N are commonly used combined contraceptive pills. They are taken daily without break. Then sequential pills contain a high dose of estrogen along with moderate dose of progesterone. And the third one, that is mini pill, contain low dose of progestin only but with no estrogen. Saheli, the new oral contraceptive pill for the female, contain a non-steroidal preparation called Centroman, which is taken once in a week but has high contraceptive value with very little side effects. Saheli contraceptive pill has been developed at CDRI, as I have already discussed. Now, can anyone tell me the full form of CDRI and the location of that institute? If you know the answer, write in the comment section below. Then non-oral hormonal contraceptives are also there. These are hormone implants, hormone injection like Depo-Provera and vaginal ring. And there is another pill which is known as emergency contraception or morning after pill. That is, implantation can also be checked by this morning after pills or known as emergency contraceptive pills. The first term is actually a misnomer because these pills can prevent pregnancy if taken within 72 hours, not just the morning after unprotected sexual intercourse. So, morning after pill term is actually a misnomer. The most common form of emergency contraception is a kit consisting of a high dose of birth control pills. They can either suppress ovulation or prevent. Okay. Now these kits are for emergency use only, like if a condom breaks or in case of rape. I pill, pill 72 and unwanted 72, these are the commonly used emergency contraceptive pills. There are some side effect, like there may be some side effect like menstrual irregulation, then breakthrough bleeding from the uterus, vomiting, etc. So therefore it is always advised to take proper contraceptive methods. The next one is birth control by permanent methods. Now, permanent method is sterilization or surgical method. It prevents transport of semen in males and ova in females. As a result, there is no fertilization or, of course, no pregnancy. These methods are of few types. First one is vasectomy. Vasectomy is the sterilization in male. What happens in vasectomy? A small incision is made on each side of the scrotum. Then each vas deferens is cut and its ends are tied, blocking the exit of sperm from the testis. Next one is tubectomy or tubal ligation. It is the sterilization in female. An incision is made here in the abdominal cavity. The fallopian tubes are cut and then cut ends are tied. As a result, the secondary oocyte cannot pass through the fallopian tube and sperm obviously cannot reach the oocyte. Okay. There are some side effects of these methods, like the women who has the history of blood clotting disorder or cerebral blood vessel damage, then migraine, headache, hypertension or heart diseases are not advised to take oral contraceptives. Our next topic of discussion is medical termination of pregnancy or MTP. What is that? Termination of pregnancy before fetus becomes viable is known as medical termination of pregnancy. In India, it follows Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971. Okay. Now, the types of MTP are basically two. First one is spontaneous, that is probably 1/3 of all pregnancy abort spontaneously within 4 weeks of conception. And the second one is therapeutic. A pregnancy can be legally terminated in its early stages if doctors advise that its continuation would seriously affect the health of the mother. At present, termination is legally allowed up to 28th week of pregnancy if the family physician and the gynecologist consider the need for abortion. Okay. Then the question is, why MTP is important? Of course, the answer is to get rid of unwanted pregnancy due to casual unprotected intercourse or not use of contraceptive during coitus, or MTPs sometimes are also necessary where pregnancy can be harmful or even fatal to the mother or to the fetus or both. Now, MTP also has a significance, that is, it plays a significant role in decreasing human population. And yes, of course, there are some drawbacks. It is being misused to abort even the normal female fetus. Majority of MTPs are often performed illegally by unqualified quacks, which may be fatal. And of course, it has also raised many emotional, ethical, religious, and social issues. Let us now start with sexually transmitted diseases, or in short STDs. Diseases transmitted through sexual intercourse with infected person are known as sexually transmitted diseases or venereal diseases, that is in short VD, or reproductive tract infection RTI. Now again, I have one question for my viewers. Do you know what is UTI? If you know the answer, write in the comment section below. Now, these STDs are caused by bacteria, viruses, protozoa, nematodes, arthropods, and fungi. Let us now discuss few sexually transmitted diseases. Let us begin with STDs caused by bacteria. First one is syphilis. It is caused by Treponema pallidum. In the first or primary stage, there is ulcer or chancre on the genitalia. In the secondary stage, the chancre is healed and there are skin lesions, rashes, and swollen joints. In the tertiary stage, there is cardiac, neurological, ophthalmic, and auditory problems. In the latent syphilis, there is no evidence of the disease. Remember, a very important point for NEET exam is name the confirmatory test of syphilis, and the answer is VDRL. VDRL is the confirmatory test of syphilis. Now, for the treatment of this disease, penicillin and tetracycline are used. Next one is gonorrhea. It's caused by Neisseria gonorrhoeae. Now, this bacterium lives in genital tubes. It produces pus containing discharge, pain around genitalia, and burning sensation during urination. It may lead to arthritis and eye infection in children of gonorrhea affected mothers. Diagnosis is carried out by gram staining of the discharge and culture. Disease can be cured through the use of appropriate antibiotics like penicillin, ampicillin, etc. Third one is chancroid. It's caused by Haemophilus ducreyi. Ulcer appears at the site of infection, generally over external genitalia. It is painful and it bleeds. Nearby lymph nodes swell up and become tender. The disease is diagnosed by clinical symptoms, staining of discharge, and cell culture, etc. And the antibiotics used for the treatment are erythromycin, ciprofloxacin, and trimethoprim, etc. Then let us talk about the STD, which is caused by chlamydia. It's called chlamydiasis and caused by Chlamydia trachomatis. Now, chlamydia we all know is obligate intracellular pathogen. It causes urethritis, epididymitis, tenderness and swelling in the scrotal region, then cervicitis, then inflammation of fallopian tube, etc. Detection techniques are clinical, gram staining of discharge, antigen detection, and nucleic acid hybridization. Antibiotics like tetracycline, erythromycin, rifampicin are effective, but penicillin is not effective in case of chlamydiasis. You need to remember this point. Penicillin is not effective in chlamydiasis. Then the next disease caused by virus. First one is AIDS, which is the deadly disease. It's caused by human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. Luc Montagnier and Barry Sinous got Nobel Prize for the discovery that AIDS is caused by basically HIV. Symptoms include fever, lethargy, pharyngitis, weight loss, nausea, headache, etc. The patient gets immune deficiency because HIV attacks helper T lymphocyte. It's very important. You should remember this for your exam. HIV attacks helper T lymphocyte. Now, the virus of AIDS, that is HIV, is transmitted via blood and semen. It can be diagnosed by ELISA test. Here I have a question for the viewers. What is the full form of ELISA? If you know the answer, write in the comment section. And AIDS can be diagnosed with the help of another test, that is Western blotting. That means AIDS can be diagnosed by ELISA as well as Western blotting test. Western blotting test is used to confirm the ELISA positive cases only. Now, PCR, that is polymerase chain reaction, is also used to diagnose AIDS. Incubation period is 6 months to 10 years in case of AIDS. Although AIDS is incurable, yet azithromycin or zidovudine, in short AZT, is the drug of choice. There is another drug that is sometimes used to treat AIDS is didnosine or DDI, didnosine. But remember, AIDS is actually incurable. Then the next one that is caused by virus is hepatitis B. It is caused by hepatitis B virus, in short HBV. Its symptoms include jaundice, that is yellow skin, persistent low-grade fever, abdominal pain, and fatigue. It can cause cirrhosis of liver and liver cancer. It can be transmitted by blood transfusion, sexual contact, saliva, tears, drug abuse, tattooing, sharing of razor, ear and nose piercing, etc. So please be careful while doing all these things like tattooing or sharing of razor or ear or nose piercing in a salon. Okay, because you never know when you will be contacted with hepatitis B. Now, hepatitis B can be diagnosed by Australian antigen test, which is also called hepatitis B surface antigen, HBS antigen. It is also diagnosed by ELISA. Now, vaccine produced through recombinant DNA technology are available for hepatitis B. Okay, and remember, hepatitis B is also an incurable STD like HIV. Next one is genital herpes. It is caused by herpes simplex virus, in short HSV. Remember, there are basically two types of herpes. Type 1 herpes simplex virus causes cold sore on the mouth and lips, whereas type 2 causes genital infection, producing painful blisters on the glans penis and penile urethra in male, and on the vulva or sometimes in the vagina in the female. Detection is carried out by clinical symptom antigen detection, PCR, and nucleic acid hybridization. Although genital herpes is also incurable, yet some medicines are used like acyclovir, valacyclovir, famciclovir, etc. Fourth one is genital warts. It is caused by human papilloma virus, HPV. Here again I have another question for the viewers. Can you name a cancer of females which is caused by human papilloma virus? If you know the answer, please write in the comment section below. Now, genital warts is caused by human papilloma virus. Warts, that is benign hard outgrowth with horny surface, develop over the skin and mucosal surface of external genitalia. In case of women, the infection may enter vagina and cervix. The diagnosis is made through clinical symptoms, antibody detection, culture, and DNA hybridization. It also spreads through sexual intercourse. As I have already discussed, this is sexually transmitted disease. Now, the patient are with increased risk for cancer of the vagina, cervix, anus, etc. In treatment, cryosurgery is used in the removal of warts. And imiquimod, an interferon inducer, is beneficial in some cases. And another useful preparation is useful in case of genital wart, that is Podophylax podophyllum. Okay. So moving on to the next part, that is the sexually transmitted diseases caused by protozoa. It's trichomoniasis, which is caused by Trichomonas vaginalis. The parasite here infects both male and female. In female, it causes vaginitis with foul smelling, yellow vaginal discharge and burning sensation, whereas in male, it causes urethritis, epididymitis, prostatitis, resulting in pain and burning sensation. And it is also transmitted as usual through sexual intercourse. Now, standard treatment is metronidazole, but remember, in this case, both the partners need to be treated simultaneously. Okay. Then certain STDs are caused by nematodes also, like enterobiasis. It's caused by Enterobius vermicularis or pinworm. Okay. Our next topic of discussion is infertility. Now, infertility is the inability to produce offspring in spite of unprotected sexual activities. Now, infertility can be caused by various factors like immature reproductive system, then defective reproductive system, and endocrine disorders. Even infertility is also caused by deficiency of vitamin E and manganese. Let us discuss the infertility in males. There are actually several diseases that lead to infertility in males. First one is cryptorchidism. We have already read in our previous chapter, that is, cryptorchidism is a condition in which testes do not descend from abdominal cavity to scrotum. Next one is impotency. It is the inability of the male to achieve an erection of penis long enough to complete sexual intercourse. Third one is sperm count. If the sperm count is decreased, that is oligospermia, or absence of living sperm in the semen, that is azoospermia. In both these cases, it may lead to infertility in males. Here I have a question for my viewers. Can you tell me the normal sperm count of a healthy male? If you know the answer, write in the comment section. Fourth point is failure of spermatogenesis. That is, in some male, there is absence of spermatogenesis due to cryptorchidism or undeveloped testis. Fifth one is abnormal sperm. Sometimes the sperm count may be normal, but the structure of the sperm becomes abnormal. Fifth one is ADAM, that is androgen deficiency in aging male. What is that? In case of some male, some aged male, there is a particular situation which is known as male menopause. This is due to hyposterone production in older male. Next one is blockage of reproductive ducts. Blockage of reproductive duct like vas deferens leads to infertility. Then higher scrotal temperature, walking in hot environment can cause oligospermia. Okay, that is the reason why male are frequently asked not to use laptop on their laps. Okay. Next one is infection. Mumps, inflammation of testes, infection of prostate gland and seminal vesicle can cause oligospermia. Then certain drugs like antidepressant, cytotoxic drugs, etc. might lead to infertility in case of males. Let us start with the infertility in females. Like males, there are also several reasons leading to infertility in females. First one is absence of ovulation, or which is also known as anovulation. In some cases, ovulation does not occur because of hyposecretion of gonadotropic hormones. Next one is oophorocystosis, that is ovarian cyst formation. Ovarian cysts are basically fluid-filled tumors of the ovary, and these cysts prevent ovulation. Third one is oophoritis. Now, what is that? It is inflammation of ovary, usually caused by an infection. Next one is ectopic pregnancy. I have already discussed this in the previous chapter though. It is implantation of embryo at a place other than uterus, generally in the oviduct. Next one is endometriosis. Now in endometriosis, sometimes a type of endometrial tissue similar to uterine endometrium grows in the pelvic cavity surrounding the uterus, fallopian tube as well as ovaries. This is known as endometriosis. And remember, pregnancy does not occur in these conditions. Next is fibroid uterus. What is that? Sometimes endometrium becomes fibrous, which prevents implantation of the embryo to the uterus. Next is excessive cervical mucus. In some cases, there is abnormal secretion of thick mucus in the cervix, which prevents fertilization. And finally, the deficiency of some hormones like gonadotropins like FSH and LH, then estrogen and progesterone, they might also lead to infertility. Infertile couples are normally advised to consult specialized doctors in this field to have children. Like in some cases, the male is advised to use vitamin E, vitamin C, folic acid, B12, etc. to improve oligospermia. Or some other cases like clomiphene citrate intake improves production of gonadotropin, etc. However, where such treatments is not possible, the couples can be assisted to have children through special technique which is known as assisted reproductive technologies. Now, these include a number of techniques which assist infertile couples to solve infertility problem. Like some important techniques are, first of all, Test tube baby. I think we all are, at least we all have heard these words. Like test tube baby is a very common term to all of us in nowadays. This method involves in vitro fertilization, in short, IVF, that is, fertilization outside the body in almost similar condition as that in the body, followed by zygote or embryo transfer. Now, embryo formed by in vivo fertilization can also be used for such transfer. In all such cases, secondary oocyte, that is, ovum, from the wife or the donor female is taken. After this, the ovum is fertilized by her husband's or the donor male's sperm in a laboratory dish which has a nutrient. The zygote or the early embryo, that is up to 8 blastomere stage, is transferred into the fallopian tube. It is known as ZIFT or zygote intrafallopian transfer, or embryo with more than 8 blastomere is transferred into the uterus, and in that case it is known as intrauterine transfer to complete further development of zygote or embryo. So you need to remember the difference between ZIFT and IUT. Okay. Now this embryo is then implanted in the uterus where it develops into a fetus, which in turn develops into a child. Now the success rate of this technique is very less. It is actually less than 20%. The first test tube baby is Louis Joy Brown, who was born to Leslie and Gilbert Brown on July 25th, 1978. Remember this date because the questions might be asked from this particular date because this is a breakthrough event. It occurred in Lancashire, England, and with the help of the Dr. Patrick Steptoe and Dr. Robert Edwards. Later on, test tube babies were also born in other countries, and India's first test tube baby was born on August 6, 1986. Her name is Kumharsha. Although the credit for India's first test tube baby goes to Dr. Indra Hinduja, some person claimed that India's or Asia's first test tube baby was born in Kolkata on 3rd October 1978 and her name was Durga. Now her name is Kanupriya Agarwal, and it was possible due to efforts of Dr. Subhash Mukherjee. Robert Edwards won Nobel Prize in 2010 for developing the technique of producing the first test tube baby. Second one is artificial insemination or AI technique. Infertility of male is either due to inability to achieve an erection of penis to inseminate the female or due to very low sperm count in the semen. This can be corrected by artificial insemination technique. In artificial insemination, the semen collected either from the husband or from a healthy donor is artificially introduced either into the vagina or into the uterus, that is IUI or intrauterine insemination of the female. Third method is gamete intrafallopian transfer, in short GIFT. Remember, these abbreviated terms are very often asked in your competitive exams. In case of GIFT, transfer of unfertilized oocyte and 2 to 5 lakh motile sperms are passed into the fallopian tube of another female who cannot produce young one but can provide proper environment for fertilization which occurs in vivo. Next one is intracytoplasmic sperm injection or ICSI. In this technique, a sperm is directly injected into the ovum to form the zygote and then an embryo in the laboratory, and the embryo is then transferred into the uterus. Fifth method is zygote intrafallopian transfer or ZIFT. In this technique, zygote or early embryo with up to 8 blastomere is transferred into the fallopian tube. The last one is intrauterine transfer, that is IUT. If the embryo is more than 8 blastomere, it is transferred from the laboratory to the uterus to complete its further development. Some important points for NEET have been discussed here. First is surrogate mother. A developing embryo is implanted in the uterus of another female. Now, the woman who substitutes the real mother to nurse the embryo is known as surrogate mother. Then NACO, National AIDS Control Organization. It's very important for exam. World AIDS Day falls on 1st December. World Population Day falls on 11 July. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to share and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much.